So, the Atlanta Supercross was last night. I definitely can't talk about this race without talking about Tomac, can I? So, like I said, Atlanta was last night. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, actually. The track was interesting. The layout wasn't too hard, so if you were a rookie or this was like your first Supercross ever, you were probably pretty glad that there wasn't anything too gnarly. The whoops were pretty short. The rhythm sections weren't too gnarly. There was easier sections that you could do that weren't as gnarly, but still decently fast. But I think a lot of it came down to the dirt. Dirt was pretty weird. It broke down a lot. These tracks this year, I don't know if it's something that Dirtworks is doing different with how they're prepping it, but the tracks are almost all the same, it seems like, which kind of sucks. We don't really have any hard pack tracks so far this year. The dirt last night was really weird. It was kind of unpredictable. It would get rutted and really choppy, and then it would get really slick and hard. It was pretty weird. For example, most of the berms didn't have ruts in them, and that's because everybody's jumping into the corner. They're sliding with their rear brakes locked for the first half, and then they're in a low gear that has a lot of torque in the bottom end, and they're just sliding through the entire corner. So there's no ruts. But then you get to the one berm that did have ruts, and that's the berm before the whoops, and that's because instead of being in a low gear coming out of the corner, they're in third, fourth gear where they're lugging it through the corner. Way less wheel spin coming out of the corner resulted in just a ton of ruts through the corner. So the track was weird. Made for some good racing though, because guys seemed to be a little out of control the whole time. Okay, so now to the racing point of it. So 250s first, like always. I said this last week, and I'm saying it again because I think it's still true. It's time for somebody to step up, I think, to show that they are the guy. I had thought that guy was going to be McElrath. There, I said it right this time. I hate saying McElrath. McElrath just comes out of my mouth way easier. McElrath, I thought was going to be the guy. And I'm questioning that now because Sexton really stepped it up last night, I think. He was the fastest qualifier, which shows he has a ton of speed. Last night, when it comes to the top 5 guys in the main, him and Shimoda were the only two that really did anything. So off the start, it was Hampshire first, Sexton second, McElrath third, Martin fourth, and Smith fifth. And almost the whole race, that's just kind of how it was. Yes, McElrath did pass Chase at one point, but Chase got him right back, which was really weird because the lap before in the sand, Sexton actually was able to jump over the inside roller in that right-hander before the triple, and McElrath was behind him at that point and saw him do it and gap him a ton, but for some reason, after McElrath passed Sexton, he decided to go to the outside in that section. Chase didn't jump over the single, but still did the inside fast and got right back around him. I thought that was a pretty weird decision on McElrath's part to take that line, but Chase got back into second, and then for a while, they were all kind of going just the same speed. That is until Chase did pass Hampshire. And I said last week that at least in the first main, that Chase was being too nice. He wasn't being aggressive enough. And that's kind of how he's been his entire career, I feel. So seeing him get very aggressive with Hampshire and stuff him in the corner, I was really happy about that, actually. I was stoked. I thought finally Chase is being aggressive. That's not something that he ever was. And now that he has done that once, I think he'll keep doing it. And now these guys know that they can't just punk Sexton whenever they want and get away with it because he won't retaliate at all. Everybody now knows that, yeah, Chase will throw it in there. He'll hit you. He'll stuff you. He'll do whatever he needs to win now. And I think that is awesome on Chase's part. And he should keep doing that. And then I think things would have stayed the exact same, the way that they were, with Sexton being in first, Hampshire second, McElrath third, Martin fourth, Smith fifth. I think that would have stayed the exact same if it wasn't for Hampshire making that mistake in the sand, because that mistake ended up making Martin crash. And it was really weird. I wonder if something happened during the lap before that one that made that rut change, because Hampshire, McElrath, Martin they all made the same mistake. They all were standing up, going through that rut, and it looked like there was a hook in the rut that they weren't expecting that shot them to the right a little bit. Hampshire got into the hay bale. McElrath was able to stay away from the hay bale, but Martin landed in the exact same place that RJ did, made him go down. That was a bummer because Martin was keeping up with all those guys, and I thought that was cool. Martin's not normally a Supercross guy, but this season he's shown that he's stepped it up. He's a Supercross guy now too. That's not something that I thought was going to happen. I thought he was going to be gun shy coming into this series. Doesn't seem to be the case at all. I'd be a little worried going into the outdoors if I was everybody else, because if Martin's this good in Supercross right now, I can't imagine how good he's going to be in outdoors. And I'm really excited to see that. I'm really excited. But once Martin went down, then Smith got into 4th and Marchbanks got into 5th. And then the top 4 just kind of stayed there. Hampshire and McElrath, they battled a little bit. McElrath was right on him, and then he wasn't able to do anything, and then they just kind of stayed there. And then they showed Jo Shimoda ride pretty aggressively with Marchbanks and get into the top 5 and then finish in the top 5. I'm really stoked at the rookies this year. Obviously, Jet Lawrence, we saw he almost won and then wadded himself. Pierce Brown made his debut last night. Yes, he wadded himself on going up to the triple, I think he showed on Instagram. But he qualified, 4th? And then Jo Shimoda just got a top 5. The rookies this year are pretty dang good, and I think that's going to be pretty cool watching them probably fight for championships next year. They're going to be good. They're going to be really good. But other than that, that's kind of how the race went. I think Chase has kind of solidified himself as the number 1 guy. I mean, obviously he's got the points lead, so yeah, he is the number 1 guy. But not only does he have the speed, he's going to have the consistency, he's going to have the starts, something that the other 3, Hampshire, McElrath, and Martin, I don't see them having it right now. So yeah, good on ya, Chase. But it is time to talk about the 450s. So in the 450s, if you're one of the top dudes and your name is not Ken Roczen, you didn't have the best night last night. Well, actually, I take that back. Barcia and Webb honestly had awesome nights, I think, for the circumstances. Tomac, if you break the main into 2 sections, the first 10 minutes and the second 10 minutes, his first 10 minutes were atrocious. His second 10 minutes were insane. So I can't say he had a good race because the first half was terrible, but the second half was amazing. So I think he had a decent race. Not quite good, but decent. Anderson, I don't even know what the heck was going on. He actually made the night pretty interesting because of all the crap that was happening around him and from him. But I don't really understand what happened at the end. He was trying to pass Hill. He had a chance at a podium. He was trying to pass Hill for 4th. Then Webb and Tomac both got around him, and he ended up finishing in 11th. Not quite sure what happened there, but Anderson, not a good night for him. But if you're somebody like Davalos, you had an awesome night. You almost got second. That Team Tedder KTM must be better than I think it is. Do they have like factory support? I have a feeling that they do because his bike works really well. Okay, so Webb and Barcia, I want to talk about them. They both didn't get the best of starts. They were kind of mid-pack. And they both really, they battled their way back to the front, which for Barcia, he needed another podium and he got a second. And that was a good bounce back, I guess, after the past few weeks of him not doing what he could. It all comes down to the starts, and if any of the top dudes besides Roczen had gotten a good start, then he might not have gotten a podium. So Barcia still needs to figure out his starts because they suck. And then Webb made a ridiculous charge too, and it's what makes Webb's charge so ridiculous is because of what happened last week. His butt has to hurt so bad. I'm not quite sure how he was able to ride as fast as he was. At one point, they showed that he was doing the same lap times as Ken, which is gnarly. I honestly thought Webb wouldn't even be riding this week, and he got a podium. That is insane. With Webb, I think his season is nuts. He's 24 points down, but if you really look at what his season has been, that's not that bad. He was sick for the first couple rounds. He had a couple rounds that he wasn't sick, and he was starting to make his way back to the front. And then last weekend, he somehow didn't break his tailbone, but just wadded himself. And then he comes out this week without riding at all the week prior and gets a podium and is only really 24 points down. With 8 rounds to go, that's not very far off of the lead. Let's just say if he wins every round from here on out and either Tomac or Roczen gets second every weekend, Webb wins. So he's honestly not out. He's not even close to out. We've seen deficits way bigger than this be cut in half in one round or even made up in one round. Anything can really happen. Considering how Webb's season has been going, it's a little ridiculous that he's still in the position that he's in. And then Tomac. I definitely can't talk about this race without talking about Tomac, can I? And some people feel like I don't give Tomac credit where credit is due. I have to definitely give him credit this round. Like I said earlier, the first half of the race, I don't have to give him credit because there was no credit due for that one. He started off and to me kind of looked flustered even right at the beginning. Anderson got by him, Barcia got by him, and then he went across like 3 ruts to hit Barcia to go back by him, which I think is fine. I'm not saying it was dirty. He barely really even touched him. I don't know why Barcia got all mad at him after the moto. There's nothing to be mad about. Barcia does way worse than that. So for Barcia to get mad over something like that is pretty dumb. But anyways, got back around Barcia, and then he got up to Baggett, and then honestly tried a stupid move and took himself and Baggett out. I thought I knew why Tomac went down when I first watched it, but then as I watched it again, he did what he needed to do to be able to take somebody out and not take yourself out. Pretty much as long as your front wheel is in front of theirs, like most likely it's going to be okay. But as soon as he touched Baggett, his front wheel washed out, which I think means that maybe he just went in way too hard. And if Baggett wasn't there, he wouldn't have gotten any front wheel traction anyways, and he would have gone down. I don't know why he fell, but I think we can all agree that early in the moto, trying to take somebody out like that is probably a stupid decision, especially when you take yourself out. So from there, I thought, well, if he's going to prove me wrong about what I've said, now is the time to show it. Because if he just kept making mistakes and wasn't making his way forward, then I would say, yeah, that's what he's done in the past. And I honestly thought that was going to happen because he got up right in front of Stewart, got past Cunningham, and then Stewart actually passed him. And he was behind Stewart for a good amount of time. And he got around Stewart right at about the 10.5-minute mark. And then it was from there that Tomac went into charge mode and showed a champion's mentality. The first half, I would say not so much. But the second half, he really did. He made a charge from what was he in 13th to 4th? That's pretty decent in 10 minutes. I do have to give him that. There's not that many people that I think could do that. And I am going to play devil's advocate just a little bit. He did get a few favors, and most of those favors were because Anderson was riding like an idiot. He got held up in the tunnel, which made some fast people kind of get held up. That one wasn't too bad. But then he hit, Freese or something? He got held up, and Freese and Wilson went down, and Tomac got around him. So Tomac did get some gifts. Tomac did get some luck, which to be a champion, you got to be lucky too. You can't just be the fastest guy ever. You got to have some luck on your side, and I'd say Tomac for this race, he had some luck on his side. I'm not taking away anything that he did. He rode like a champ, and he almost got a podium, which is insane. So trust me, I'm not taking anything away from what Tomac did. He put on a heck of a ride, and I'm giving him full kudos for that, at least the second half of the race. And as I was rewatching and kind of getting my clips together, I noticed that he was doing this pass a lot, but I saw Webb do it, I saw Barcia do it. So the track, I think, was really hard to pass on, and there was really only 2 spots where people were making passes, it seemed. One was if you could do a different line in the sand and make it fast. There was a lot of different things that you could do there. But one big thing that Tomac was doing a lot was in the over-under section. So the main line was to what was it? As you're going into the over-under, you hug the inside, and then you kind of drift out as you're coming out of it. Well, Tomac a lot was, if he was right on somebody, he would go to the outside going into the over-under, and then he would hug way right coming out of it. He was able to go around the outside going into that left-hander, the first corner, and make a bunch of easy passes there. I thought that was pretty cool that the track was really hard to pass on, and instead of him just going balls to the wall and trying to pass people super aggressively by putting them into the tough blocks and stuff, he found a section where he could consistently pass people cleanly that wouldn't slow him down at all. Because when you try to pass somebody aggressively, that's slowing you down too. And Tomac needed to get to the front, so he needed to find a way to pass people without slowing himself down. And that was the perfect place to do it. I did see other people doing it too, but Tomac did it a lot. I thought that was cool. I enjoyed watching him pass people right there. And then I got to give kudos to Webb too, because once Tomac got onto Webb, Webb didn't crack under any kind of pressure. Tomac pressured him a lot. It was like the last 3 minutes plus the extra lap of the race, I think. And Tomac showed that he was obviously faster than Webb because he caught him, but Webb wouldn't let him by. And when they both passed Davalos in that next corner before the whoops, Webb, I'm trying to think of what he did. He hugged the inside, went across a bunch of ruts, and then just freaking was wide open going into the whoops and almost fell off the back of the bike. He was super out of control, but he did not want Tomac to pass him. That was pretty fun to watch. I did enjoy that a lot. But then at the end of the night, geez, Roczen had a perfect race, and we can't even talk about him because they never even showed him. NBC, they've got a lot of problems. They never showed Roczen, which it would have been nice to watch him because at the end of the race, he had a fastest lap time that was half a second faster than anybody's. That would have been nice to watch. I get it. They were showing Tomac go through the field and all this crap happening just everywhere in the moto, but it still would have been nice. And then they need to have a talking to Ralph and Ricky because they sucked last night. They were both making a bunch of mistakes. They weren't saying anything that interesting. I don't know if I'm alone in this. Please let Emig come back and put Daniel Blair in there with them. I would be really happy. But back to Roczen, I can't even talk about him because I don't know what he did. One thing I will say is that if he gets a hole shot, it seems that he wins. I would like to go back and look at how his starts are compared to his finishes, because if he gets a middle of the pack start, he doesn't seem to be able to do what Tomac did last night, and that's make his way through the pack and salvage a decent finish. It seems that he needs a good start in order to get a good finish, which you're not always going to get a good start, and Roczen either gets a hole shot or mid-pack. So if he keeps getting these hole shots, then he's going to be hard to beat, obviously. If he also can't figure out how to go through the field like Tomac, then these guys are going to beat him. So that's all I really have to say about Roczen. I can't really talk about him because they didn't show him. But other than that, yeah, this championship, again, it's still alive. We got a tie for the points lead again. Do you think that we're going to have another tie later in the season? Or do you think one person's just going to get it and run away with it? I hope that we get another tie later into the season. How sick would it be if we had a tie going into Vegas? How long has it been since that's happened? I'm thinking Carmichael, Reed, and Stewart in 06 when they were all within a point of each other going into Vegas. How dope would it be if we had something like that? But that's all I have to say. Yesterday was a really good day for me, so my vibes are good, so don't bring them down. I'm just kidding. Tell me whatever you want. I did have a good day yesterday, though. Me and my dad went to the Air Force Academy and watched some amateur boxing. Then we went up and got my new race bike and practice bike for this year. Then had a nice dinner with my parents. Then went home and watched Supercross. And then after Supercross, watched Mikey Garcia versus Jesse Vargas, the fight. Yesterday was a good day. Don't ruin this for me. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff. And let me know what you think in the comments. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.